All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, let's get into talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers now. They picked up a win against the Falcons on Sunday, and it's interesting because it seemed like all along that Russell Wilson was going to start, but then as we got closer and closer to the game, the calf injury flared up again. And that was something, that we were monitoring throughout the rest of the week leading up to the game. And then it was confirmed that Russell Wilson was not going to start. It was going to be Justin Fields. And now it looks like Justin Fields is getting ready to play here in week 2 against the Denver Broncos. And if the Steelers start off 2-0, I don't know if Russell Wilson gets that job back. It would be hard to... I mean, it's not like Justin Fields lit it up against the Falcons, but the Steelers got the win. And, if they're 2-0 and you got Fields playing, I don't think you want to pull the plug on that. So, we'll see what happens, but this was an interesting game. The Steelers did not score a touchdown in this game. No touchdowns. This was all Chris Boswell. 6 field goals. An impressive performance by him, and TJ Watt was unbelievable in this game. Penalties were a problem. There were some questionable calls in this game, but TJ Watt had a couple of sacks in this game. He also had a fumble recovery in this game as well. Tackles for loss. Actually, no, he had 1 sack in this game. But I think he had 2 tackles for loss, like I said. And, again, the fumble recovery. He was all over the place. Dante Jackson, who they got from Carolina in the Deontay Johnson trade, had an interception in this game, as well as Deshaun Elliott off of Kirk Cousins. Justin Fields, like I said, didn't light up the stat sheet, went 17 of 23, 156 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, had 57 yards on the ground. The Steelers as a team ran for 137 yards. Najee Harris, 20 carries for 70 yards. George Pickens, of course, was their leading receiver, 6 receptions for 85 yards. Pat Freiermuth had 4 for 27. So, the offense, they put together drives to get into scoring position, but they only got field goals. And for Kirk Cousins, he was rusty. 16 of 26, 155 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Bijan Robinson, 68 yards on the ground. Tyler Algier had 21 yards on the ground. Ray McCloud, the former Pittsburgh Steeler and San Francisco 49er, He was their leading receiver, 4 receptions for 52 yards. Bijan Robinson had 5 for 43. Kyle Pitts had a touchdown in this game. And, fantasy owners got to like that. 3 receptions for 26 yards and a touchdown. Drake London only had 2 for 15, a disappointing game for him. Darnell Mooney only 1 for 15. Drew Dalman was responsible for a fumble, their center, and that ended up getting lost. So, yeah. And then the Falcons' defense, it doesn't look bad. They had 2 sacks in this game. Grady Jarrett had a sack and a half. And Matthew Judon had half a sack, the other half of that. So you got to like that combination right there. But, yeah, disappointing opener for the Falcons. I mean, again, Kirk Cousins is coming off of an Achilles injury. And you had 2 quarterbacks this week coming off of Achilles injuries. One of them looked better than the other, even though they both guys ended up losing. But yeah, Kirk Cousins did not look great, and you figure he's going to get better as the season goes on. But I mean, the offensive line, I from what I saw, it didn't look like they were doing him any favors, but that could also just be because they were going up against a very good pass rush in the Steelers with TJ Watt. They'll be on the road against Philly next week, but Yeah, it was rusty. But you already got Falcon fans calling for Michael Penix. It's one game. Let's see what he looks like over the course of the season, and then we go from there. But, yeah, not how the Falcons wanted to start. And on top of that, I thought this was hilarious that, well, hilarious and depressing at the same time, is that the Falcons had to use a silent count because there were so many Steeler fans there. You couldn't do your normal thing. It was unbelievable. In their own stadium. Like, I understand it with the Chargers and the Rams. Like, they got to do that because LA has no home field advantage whatsoever. But the Falcons, you know, they usually pack out their own stadium. Now, Steeler fans love to travel. Like, they're all, and also they're all over the place, too. All over the country. But, I mean, that was unbelievable. That there were that many Steeler fans there that they had to do a silent count. So that also didn't help. But, yeah, look, I mean, for the Steelers, and of course, you know, I switched my pick in the spread pool because I had the Steelers, and then I was like, you know what? Because when Russell Wilson got ruled out, I changed it to the Falcons. I mean, I didn't feel great about it either way because the way the Steelers' offense looked in the preseason, I was like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. But their defense just took over the game. Chris Boswell was an MVP in this game with the 6 field goals. I mean, let me go over the field goals that he made. He made a couple of 50-plus yarders, I'm pretty sure. So Boswell, yeah, he made a 57-yard field goal at one point. Yeah, made a 57-yarder to tie the game at 3. Made a 51-yarder, a 44-yarder, a 56-yarder, a 40-yarder, and a 25-yarder. Like I said, was the MVP in this game. But, and the defense as well. But, yeah. But like I said, a disappointing performance by the Falcons. And you figured, like, it'll get better. But, you know, at least the Falcons, you know, weren't the worst team in their, or didn't have the worst performance of the teams in their division, because there was a team that had an even worse performance. And that was the Carolina Panthers, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, I don't think we want to hit the panic button, and it's just it's too early. Like we're already calling for Michael Penix. But already the Falcons are getting knocked for what they did. You know, you sign Kirk Cousins to that big contract. He's coming off an Achilles, and then you go and you draft his replacement with your first pick, when you should have drafted somebody that, you know, was going to be a difference maker on the team and help the team right now. Michael Penix is on the bench. He can't do anything unless they bench Kirk Cousins and put him in. You know, so that is always going to get criticism. It's always going to get criticism. And because he's sitting there, fans are like, let's go to him, because the offense looks terrible right now. But it's the first game of the season. And it was against a very good pass rush. And now they're going up against the Eagles. And, you know, the Eagles, their defense did not look great against the Packers. So, you know, and Kirk Cousins had a good game against them last year, early on in the year. So, but it's on Monday night, and we know how Kirk Cousins does in those kinds of games. So, I don't really know what to do with that game. I mean, I'm still going to pick, like, when it comes to just straight up, I'm going to take the Eagles. But when it comes to the spread, it's tough. It's a tough one. So, I mean, I've been going back and forth with that game, because I do think that Kirk Cousins is going to have a better game. But at the same time, you know, I don't know. With him playing in prime time, you're still trying to get used to your new team. But the Eagles' defense did not play well against the Packers. They gave up a lot of points. So, I don't know. But Going back to the Steelers, though, they take on the Broncos. I mean, they could go 2-0. And they have a very tough schedule. So you want to stack up towards the end of the year. So you want to stack up as many wins as possible now, because that back half of the schedule is going to be really tough. And here's the crazy thing. Right now, the Steelers are in first place. They're the only team that won out of the AFC North teams. They're in first place. A team that and it's only week 1. I said they were finishing in last. I think I think the way week 1 went, they might be finishing in third or even second. I think at least third, because I don't see it. The way Deshaun Watson played on Sunday, that's going to be a problem for the Browns all year. You know, at least with the Steelers, I feel like, you know, you got two guys that I think could play all right. And Fields played okay. He made some good throws to George Pickens. With the Browns, Deshaun Watson is going to be a problem. And also that defense. What happened to the Browns' defense on Sunday against the Cowboys? They just did not. It was just a really flat performance on both sides for the Browns. But, you know, it's only week 1. I got to keep saying that. I got to keep hammering that home. It's only week 1. So, but the Steelers picking up a win. Like I said, I have them going 9-8. So, good start for them. For the Falcons, got to pick up the pieces and get ready for Philly on Monday. So, but let's not panic on Kirk Cousins just yet. Let's see this offense kind of gel and see what it looks like, you know, as we, you know, move forward here in the season. But before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comment recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help create a super chat for you. Any comments or thoughts that you have that you want to see put out on the live broadcast, I will acknowledge it. And it just makes the show more interactive, more lively between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day as we put out content for you guys each and every day. So any contribution you can make means the world to us. And also, another way to help out the show is by going to the link, going to GSMCPodcast.net at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about Josh Allen and his Week 1 performance as the Bills came back against the Cardinals, winning 34-28. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.